Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Center Podcast. I'm Emilia Zhivatovskaya, your host and founder of the Flourishing Center. We are training the change agents of the world and equipping them with research-based tools for healthy, happy, and successful living. And we're so grateful that you're here. Each episode features 3 sections. First is the Science Says section, where we summarize a recent research study and show you how to put the science into action. Next, we give you a research-based life hack with simple strategies for incorporating positive psychology into your life for greater well-being. And then our Practitioner Corner is where we interview someone who's out there living, breathing, and spreading positive psychology in their own unique way. Learn about how they're growing their personal and professional work and get inspired with strategies for how you might use positive psychology in your own life. Thanks for listening, and let's dive in. Hello there, and thank you for tuning in for today's podcast. In our Science Says, we are looking at a recent fMRI study that looked at what's happening in people's brain when they anticipate good things happening in their future. Then in our life hack, I will teach you how to get the benefits of anticipatory savoring without the pitfalls of anticipating the future. And in our Positive Psychology Practitioner Corner, I will introduce you to Kerri, someone who is an incredibly kind and loving coach and teacher doing amazing things in Toronto, helping individuals and organizations meet their goals. Thanks for tuning in, and let's dive in. Today's research study was an article published in the Journal of Frontiers in Psychology titled Well-Being and Anticipation for Future Positive Events, Evidence from an fMRI Study. In this study, they took 40 participants and put them through an fMRI brain scan. And in this study, they asked participants to anticipate a future event that was either a positive event or a neutral event. And in this study, they invited participants to allow themselves to feel the positive emotions associated with the future event. What they found was that the participants who were being scanned and anticipating a positive event had more activation in an area of their brain called the bilateral medial prefrontal cortex, the MPFC, which in the past has been noted as an area of the brain that's associated with higher levels of well-being compared to the neutral events condition. I think this is such an amazing study because it's a very simple intervention when you think about it. Just sit there and allow yourself to think about something that's going to be happening in your future and anticipate a future event. We call this anticipatory savoring in positive psychology. Such a simple intervention. It can be done in just a few seconds at a time, but the key is allowing yourself to feel the positive emotion. Now, given the fact that it's so easy, why don't more people do it? And I think that's because many people are all too familiar with what happens when you anticipate something good happening in the future and then you get disappointed. So for today's life hack, which is up next, we're going to explore how to help you get the benefits of anticipatory savoring without the pitfalls of feeling disappointed. Let's go there next. Today's Science Says just uncovered for us that there are potential health benefits involved with allowing ourselves to think about good things that can happen in our future. However, many people are all too familiar with what happens when we expect that a positive event will happen in the future, and then we feel the ever so familiar disappointment of what happens when it doesn't go our way. So today's life hack is how to get the benefits of anticipatory savoring, that is, savoring a future event that has not yet happened as though it is happening right here in the moment, thinking about the vacation you're going to take, the meal you're going to have, the conversation you're going to experience, what it will be like to be with someone, looking forward to things, and how to get all the benefits of that without the pitfalls of feeling disappointed or vulnerable around allowing yourself to imagine good things. We know that there are benefits to experiencing positive emotions and being able to get them created just by sitting there and thinking about things in our mind. But the reason that many people don't allow themselves to go there is because they fear that they might jinx themselves or that they will be disappointed. So the key is to be able to set an intention without a weddedness to the outcome. Now, I know this is easier said than done, but with practice, you can do this. You can think about the potential experience that you're going to have and allow yourself to imagine how grateful you will feel or what it will be like, and allow yourself to savor the possibilities of what it might be like. But then the key is when you're in the moment, when you actually do get to that date, that when you do get to that trip, to then practice mindfulness, to allow yourself to be fully present and in the moment, which means we leave all of the anticipatory savoring that we did before at the door. And so you focus on it as almost two separate events. Yes, I allowed myself to imagine what it would be like, and I used that process to get positive emotions, and I experienced them in the moment, and that is a separate event from what is actually happening. And so if you practice your mindfulness skills, practice being fully in the present moment, curious, open, and excited for what the experience might bring you. Perhaps it would even bring you something more joyful, more juicy and yummy than what you anticipated it being. Because the key is that we can experience positive emotions and benefits from anticipatory savoring. However, if we become wedded to an expectation, it is the clinging to our expectations that takes away from our well-being. So I invite you to give this a go and see how it impacts you. Think about something that you would love to see happen in the future, or something that you know is going to happen, and allow yourself to think about it, imagine it, feel it, and think about what it would be like. Let your brain activate that bilateral medial prefrontal cortex of your brain. Allow yourself to get a little well-being boost, but then leave it at the door. And when you actually do get to the experience, try to approach it with an empty mind, a beginner's mind, the mind of a child, being fully present and receiving it as though it's for the first time. Hello, everybody, and join me in welcoming Kerri Brock. She's joining us from snowy Toronto today. Kerri does such an incredible array of different things. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her, and we'll dive into the interview. Kerri is an organization change coach and a career and life coach. She also wears many hats. She volunteers for the Canadian Positive Psychology Association, and she also works for the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council, where she builds relationships with employers and recent immigrants to the country and utilizes mindfulness and empathy to connect with people, putting them into positions where they're likely to succeed in their career path in this new country. Some things you might not know about Kerri is that she has a wild inner 12-year-old that loves to play, and she brings play with her everywhere she goes. She enjoys writing poetry. She's a scuba diver. She's also a mother of and a recent empty nester of a 26-year-old daughter that's headed to Australia, which I can just imagine some people would be freaking out about, but it sounds like Kerri is incredibly excited for her daughter. Kerri, I'm so honored and so grateful to have you here with us.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, Amelia.
Kerri, tell us, how did you get started in positive psychology?
Well, I guess it all started for me when I made a bold move in 2009 to leave my corporate work and go out on my own. And through, networking and just sharing with people what some of my goals were with my new career path, one of my old bosses put me in touch with a gentleman by the name of Mark Franklin, who runs a career coaching organization called Career Cycles. I did Mark's career coaching training, and through that and my first Connexus, which is a career coaching and employment conference, I came to understand more about strengths-based coaching, and then met Louisa and the folks at the Positive Psychology Association and have been hooked ever since.
That's awesome. And we're so excited and grateful to have you also in our support team at the CAP program that you recently graduated from. So we're so thankful for your support.
Thank you. It was an amazing experience. The 6 months and the group that of CAP 31s, there's many of us who are still kind of emailing and Facebooking one another in the group and just asking questions and deepening the learning. So I just feel so appreciative of being able to take the CAP program.
And what are some of the ways that you've been integrating positive psychology into your work? Obviously, you're involved, you have your hands in so many different things.
I think, As a member of a team, so if I think about the work that I do day to day with the team at the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council, it's really about how can we build those relationships with your colleagues and your peers in healthy ways so that you can have all the play and the levity that happens when things are working well, but then also have some of those more challenging conversations that really help to build trust and help to foster safety in being able to share ideas and to be able to communicate and then work really much more effectively. So that's one thing that I know in my CAP program, often I would be thinking about. We all have challenging situations in the workplace. And so it's, I think, one of the ways in which we can see creativity and innovation start to break down as teams break down. And so I just have tried to be a real strong advocate in using those things like, am I sitting in a judger path? What's my mind trap here? What's my mind chatter telling me as I'm sitting in a meeting and maybe getting activated? So that's been great just in terms of building relationships with new colleagues. I've tried some new things that perhaps in the years past I might have shied away from because I didn't want to open up a conflict. So that's been really refreshing to see the results in terms of how we all start to work better together. In my coaching, certainly the CAP program and the tools and the interventions and the research has really helped deepen my understanding of the coach and the coachee relationship, ways in which we can apply different techniques and different interventions to different situations depending on where people are at and how open they are to trying some tools. And then I think, too, just in my relationship, right, it shows up all the time in terms of how we communicate with one another or shut down or what happens when we look at how you can have healthy conflict with a partner. And the John and Susan Gottman, I think, there was a house there, and it's like I'm working on the turning in. And so it's really been applied in almost every area, just more deeply because I have a deeper understanding of it. And I've used the course to really sit and reflect on what's happening when I'm in any type of relationship a lot more deeply than I did, say, 6 months ago.
Thank you so much, Kerri, and thank you for giving us so many different examples from such a variety of places within your life. I'm curious, what types of things do people come to you for when they think of organization change coaching or career coaching? What are the things that people are looking for when they seek you out as their coach?
So often when I've worked in the context of organizational change, it's been with building a new system or rolling out a new program or a new space or a new facility. And we know that from an employee context, that change can be quite disruptive to just their day-to-day. And it can be the thing that if their change is managed well, it can be the secret ingredient that allows for the change to happen a little more transparently. But there's always bumps along the way. I think the two things that people are looking for is for someone who can kind of look out to the horizon and see the big picture, and then coach and nurture and build the team around where they can meet the change. And so that's really an emotional part of the process. And you have some folks who are completely on board and they can see the vision and they get behind it and they're engaged. Then we have a middle cohort who they're still waiting to be convinced. They're looking for proof that this is going to be good for them, that this isn't just something that they can't stand behind. And then, of course, there's always going to be the small cohort who just don't buy in. And, sometimes they can get to completely, disruptive. But if we manage and know where the pitfalls are, then I think we can better build a plan for how to navigate them when they show up, rather than just assuming everybody's on board and the project's just going to roll along with no glitches. That would be nice. But I would say they're the two things, is to really kind of be able to see the big picture and to piece it all together for the people who are going to be involved, and then coach and nurture them. And I think really be the person who can make them feel heard.
That's so awesome, Kerri. Thank you for highlighting how difficult sometimes it can be to see the big picture because we're so in it, and how helpful it is to have someone that's on the outside looking in. My motto is 2 prefrontal cortexes are better than one. Two rational beings trying to look at something are better than one. 2 emotional brains might not always be better, but at least 2 rational brains looking at a problem can just give you a totally different vantage point.
Yeah, beautiful.
We focus a lot on self-care in positive psychology and at the Flourishing Center. And I'm curious, what are some of the practices that nourish and nurture you?
Oh, well, meditation has been a big part of my life for the last 10 years, but the last 5 years in a much more, concrete and explicit way. I notice when I have a couple of days that I don't meditate, just in terms of my behaviors, my agitation, where my head goes. So meditation and breath, and now particularly even after, CAP course and just experimenting with meditation, breath in awkward moments, breath all the time. I love to walk. I have a new dog, so that's certainly happy that the dog gets me out a few times a day. So when I'm in movement, that's certainly a way I know I'm taking care of myself. The food I eat, I give myself permission to enjoy some of the temptations of fast food, but I am very conscious of what goes into my body. So I try to eat, whole foods. I try to watch my intake of alcohol. So that for me is a big part of self-care. And then sleep. I am an 8 to 9 hour a night without fail sleep. If I need a little nap, I know how to take one, but I often don't need one. So those are kind of like the 4 key pieces for me.
That's awesome, Kerri. I love witnessing people be unapologetic about sleep. I very much in the same way. I went most of my life getting by on like 5 to 6 hours of sleep as though it was a badge of honor. And now I proudly sleep 7, 8, sometimes 9. This week I was fighting off a cold. I slept 12 hours and I did not apologize for it. But there are times in my life where I felt like I would be sneaking around how much sleep I get. It's terrible in our culture.
I know.
So I love that you own, I know, it's bizarre, right? We need sleep. We're humans. We're not Energizer bunnies.
Exactly. So when people say, where do you get your energy from? I'm like, I sleep. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like they're waiting for some magical answer. I'm like, no, I just sleep. I just try to get good night's sleep.
Yep, same here. People ask me all the time, wow, you have so much energy. I go, yeah, I sleep. It's my secret weapon. Listeners on the line, we give you our secret weapon. And Kerri, I'm curious, how has positive psychology helped you overcome any challenges or obstacles in your life?
Oh, wow. So many little challenges and obstacles to think of. I've done some reflection in this last month of the year, as I think many of us do. And 2 things that are really sticking with me about some of my own challenges is really about letting go versus, controlling and holding on more tightly. So letting go of old habits, old thought patterns, old stuff has been very much a process of forgiveness, of kind of being vulnerable and letting myself unravel when I need to let it out so that it can be let go. And one of the I've always been a very high energy, fast pace. I'm always moving. And when I move, I usually move very quickly. I had an aha moment sometime in September, October, where I just started to slow down my pace. I wasn't always so in a rush, or it just didn't have to always happen in 5 minutes when it could take 10. And I really noticed by slowing down my pace, everything is still happening. My life is still moving forward. I'm still accomplishing things. I'm still meeting new people, but I'm so much more whole in my energy. I feel like it's helping with being much more present. So those have been 2 things, 2 ways I feel like positive psychology has helped shape some of my own work and healing this year.
That's awesome, Kerri. Thank you. And I know you mentioned that you are a recent empty nester and that your daughter is off to go to the other side of the world. And I'm just curious if you talk more about how positive psychology has impacted you as a mother. I can just recall when I was in my mid-20s, and if I had said to my mom, I'm going to Australia, like my mom's Jewish guilt would have piled in, and she would have been, figuring out how she too could move to Australia to be with me. I'm just curious how it's supported you in your parenting and what you're learning about this point in your life.
Well, I guess through the whole parenting journey, positive psychology has let me bring play and humor to maybe some tenuous situations, particularly in the teen years. I knew if I could keep her laughing that she wouldn't shut down. This, since she was born, I've really tried to introduce her and open her to the world. So we've traveled since she was 10 or 11. And so always my hope for her was to be able to spread her wings and go and explore and build an amazing life. And so here she is now doing everything that I've hoped for her. So I take a lot of happiness in knowing that she's pursuing her dreams, things that she has shared with me along her 26 years on this planet, and now she's making them happen. And so her happiness has just been so great to see. I'm so proud of her. There was a saying in a character or cartoon script that I saw a little while ago, and it was or many years ago, and it was really just about the more you want to hold on to something, that you'll crush it. So really, it is about letting it go. And so she and I, over these last 5 years, have built through open conversation and just really me listening to what she's looking for in her life versus me trying to impart what I want, in my own life for her. And so we just have a really open, healthy kind of discussion around what's important to her. And then I just try to, again, let go and let her fly. So I'm going to miss her like crazy. I've had a couple moments where I'm like, I don't want her to go. And then when I come out of it, it's just this is one of the most beautiful blessings a parent can have, right? Is to watch their children go and carry out their dreams. So I keep focused on that. If I focus on that, then it's easier to let her go around the world.
Wow, that's so inspiring, Kerri. Thank you for sharing that wisdom with us. And as we wind down, I'm curious if you have any rules to live by or any slogan or motto that supports you in being the way that you want to be in the world.
Yes, I do actually. And it's one that I really hope I can kind of spread more freely in 2018, but it's really around this idea of self-love, being pure love. And so a hashtag that's been showing up in my world these days is self-love is pure love. And I think when we come from a place of self-love, we're much more open to receiving love from others. We're much more, tolerant. I think we connect with people in deeper and more meaningful ways. So that's my 2018 resolution, is to spread the idea of self-love.
That is so awesome. Thank you, Kerri. Kerri, how can people find you if they'd like to learn more about you or your work?
If you go to my LinkedIn profile, or I have a website, www.splashconcepts.ca.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kerri, for being here with us.
No, thank you, Amelia. It's lovely to connect with you, and I think you and the team just keep up all the great work that you're doing with CAP and the many programs you've got out there. I think it's just an important part of the work that will help really the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Kerri. Thanks for tuning in for yet another Flourishing Center podcast. We hope you're enjoying these research-based tools for increasing your happiness, well-being, resilience, and engagement. Feel free to check out our website, www.theflourishingcenter.com, to learn more about our upcoming programs. We have our spring edition of our Certificate in Applied Positive Psychology program happening in numerous cities across the US and Canada, and a new opening of our online international cohort that will be starting in March 2018. And if you're an existing graduate of our Certificate in Applied Positive Psychology program, check out our upcoming courses training you in how to be a resilience trainer, a certified coach, or our Flourishing Skill Group training program as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, if there is a topic that you would love to learn more about, or an area of your life that you need hacking in, please email us. We'd love to hear from you and love to answer your questions through our podcast. Thank Thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year, and look forward to hearing from you soon.